All right, so we're going to open the meeting then. Let me get my microphone.
Microphone.
Well, we're doing it.
Yeah, but we have.
Okay. Welcome to the Amenia Town Board meeting on Thursday, November 7th. The public meeting will start at 7, but I make a motion we go into executive session first.
I'll second.
For the purposes regarding personnel matters,
Oh, thank you.
no problem. Supervisor Blackman,
Yes.
council members Winters,
Yes.
Revillard,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Ahern. Yes. All present.
Okay. It went loud.
Woo-hoo.
I move that we come out of executive session and start our public meeting.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman,
Yes.
council members Winters,
Yes.
Revillard,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Ahern. Yes.
Okay, so we'll start. Oh, I'm sorry. The fire exits, as you know, is that door and that door. Most of you are frequent flyers, so you probably know that already. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, Dawn.
Supervisor Blackman,
Yes, here.
council members Winters,
Here.
Revillard,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Ahern. Here.
Okay. So public comment is first, if people have comments. Okay. Are you okay, Judy, if he goes first, or do you want to go first? Since you put up your hand sooner.
I actually do not have a comment.
Oh, my God. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ken Topolsky, Cascade Mountain Road. Congratulations, Councilmember Ahern.
Thank you.
Officially or unofficially?
I think it's official.
Elect.
Elect, yes. I have two things. One pertains to your budget. I'm a member of the Planning Board, and our administrative assistant clerk, whatever Judy, is extremely overworked. Planning issues are, there are more and more, a heavier workload at each meeting. It's almost impossible for members to keep up with the material, and she distributes it, and she's here. The hours are absurd. You need to put money in your budget to give her clerical help.
We did.
Okay, thank you. I just
You're
want to
welcome.
make sure. My second thing has to do with the cannabis regulations you're considering. I would have been here the last time that you held discussions on them, but it was Rosh Hashanah and you held a meeting on a very important holiday.
Shame on us.
Yes, shame on you. And I hope that's not glib or flippant.
Well,
Okay,
it probably was, but it shouldn't have been.
right, it should not have been.
Okay.
We're examples. I use medical marijuana, and if there wasn't medical marijuana, when I was in California, I used regular dispensary marijuana. That's to give you context. The distance that you're considering, the distance from a house of worship from the front door, is unacceptable for Temple Bethel, and here's why. The holiday that follows our holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, is called Sukkot. We build outside booths. It celebrates the time we spent in the desert for 40 years. And we hold our services in those booths. And those booths will not be necessarily connected to the synagogue. They could be freestanding. And freestanding puts them well within 200 feet of Dollar General, well within 200 feet of the old Monty's. I suggest you make it 400 feet from a house of worship. And I think that would be respectful for all faiths. And I think to do anything less is inappropriate. I have the same feelings about the cemetery, but the synagogue, the Catholic Church, all the churches deserve that respect from their property lines, not from their front door. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, see, Judy.
Sorry.
No, you didn't disappoint us. That's good.
Yeah, Judy Moran, I want to agree with what Mr. Chapolsky said. I think that 400 feet, even 500 feet from a house of worship is reasonable. It's a matter of respect. It's a matter of following the meaning of the laws to isolate activities that might be troublesome to some people at a religious location.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Sharon, you look like you're about to say something.
Debating it. I guess I
Oh.
better decide quick, huh?
We have been holding a second public comment at the end of the meeting, but then you have to sit through the whole meeting.
I just wanted to share with you something that is taking place around us in the town and in the CAC. And I wanted you to be aware of it at this point, to keep it in the back of your mind. My name is Sharon Kroger, and I'm a member of the Conservation Advisory Council. There is a civic petition to save the view from De Laverne Hill. And I'm just going to read 3 very short paragraphs so you know the dimensions, and then I'm going to have a coughing fit, so I'm probably going to have to run out and cough. The Committee to Save the View from De Laverne Hill has a civic petition with a picture of the view. Something of this kind was asked of the town way back years ago, and I'm going to document that for you and give you each a little packet so you can see the history of the concern, because this is not a new concern. It's been going on for decades. We invite those who live, work, or worship in the town of Amenia to sign this petition to save the priceless view into the Harlem Valley from the observation point on Route 44. This location has been historically used as a place of meditation and worship, as well as by sightseers. It is part of an even greater extensive view which can be seen from higher up on the mountaintop at Wethersfield. Standing in the hairpin turn observation point on Route 44, one can see the grand expanse of the Harlem Valley north to south, with a particular unbroken curving agricultural field in the immediate foreground that used to be part of the old Culver farm. This particular unbroken field has been continuously in agriculture, should be preserved in the public interest and put into conservation by one means or another. This classic view should not become part of any kind of future development. The Amenia Master Plan of 1990 explains the importance of this particular viewshed, sometimes called by historians the gateway to the Berkshires. The Amenia Comprehensive Plan of 2007 stresses the importance of ongoing protection for certain quality agricultural soils in strategic locations, such as this particular parcel after Walter Culver died, and such as this one. We believe that the town of Amenia itself should have placed a conservation easement on this particular parcel after Walter Culver died, and would like to remedy this mistake in the public interest. Please sign this petition to show your agreement so that we may convince the Conservation Advisory Council, the Amenia Planning Board, and the Amenia Town Council that development should not take place on this particular property, which is basic to the view from De Laverne Hill. Thank you.
Ms. Sharon, can I ask a question? I might have missed it in the very beginning. Is this committee part of the CIC?
No, this is a separate citizens committee that's
Okay.
in advocacy.
All right.
And these petitions are out, I mean, everywhere from the Amenia Historical Society to the various houses of worship and other organizations. In other words, this is circulating everywhere in town as part of the educational process of reminding everybody that this is very important. And you will notice in the last 2 months that there are signs that have been, the state signs have been finally put where they were supposed to be put, so that you can see the observation point in advance of getting to it, regardless of which direction you're coming from. You may have noticed that.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Okay, I guess unless there are any other comments, I'll do the supervisor's report. Okay. Let's see. Oops, cannabis questions. Sorry, I put all the cannabis stuff on top in my inimitable way. Sorry about that. God. I'm going to borrow Paul's. Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to congratulate Nicole on her reelection. So it's nice to have her back on the board. It's been really good to have her for the past year and will continue to be, I trust. I want to thank Rosanna for filling in for me as supervisor last week and handling the state of emergency because of the fire in Dover. I want to thank the Amenia and Wassaic fire departments for bravely and tirelessly battling the Dover forest fire. I'm going to thank Tracy Saladay for spending a lot of time monitoring the completion of the gym floor. The installers added the maple baseboard today, so take a look. It's all, I mean, it's dry. The town hall parking lot was striped finally last week by Stone Leaf, and it looks great, although I think, well, never mind, it's not important. Anyway, so just enjoy that. The sidewalk to Beekman Park has a new chapter. New York State DOT responded that the drawings submitted by the engineers still don't answer all their comments. Labella is hoping to complete this round of changes, they had said by the end of this week, and resubmit. And since so much time has passed, we will likely need to rebid this for an early spring start. The pavilion at Beekman Park, the bid package is pretty close to being finished, but that's going to be discussed later in the meeting. And I had suggested to Ian, there's been so much back and forth over the specifics of how we do this, that we should have a written procedure for RFPs and RFQs. Boardroom AV, you should expect a resolution to purchase and install the equipment at the next regular meeting. We've gotten a very generous offer from Mike Flint to only to buy the equipment and not charge us anything for installation. Ambulance service, there was another meeting with the 3 town supervisors and the lawyers to meet with our current provider, and we seem to have actually negotiated a better deal, somewhat. So the increase will not all come at once, it'll be stepped, and once we actually get that in writing from them, we'll give you more information. The highway garage, the CPL, our engineer and architectural firm, discussed the project and walked the site with Megan and me and a few other people. And since then, they've met with Megan and her crew directly to sort of interview them and get their input, and they visited our current facility, which hadn't happened before. Water District, there was a meeting with Delaware Engineering to review the draft PER. It defined the existing conditions of the system and solutions, and next we'll be prioritizing repairs and providing cost estimates for making them happen. Enforcement, I've had concerns about both for the building department and the animal control officer sort of losing a lot of battles in the courtroom. And I asked our town prosecutor asked if she could come in an executive session next time to discuss that situation and try to figure out how to remedy it. The budget, in a moment, we will have the public comment on the preliminary 2025 budget and also the tax cap override. And we will incorporate suggestions and vote on a final budget at a special meeting next Thursday, the 14th. Schedule I just discussed, we had talked about skipping the second meeting in December, but there's a lot to do before the reorg meeting, so we will have that meeting on December 19th, and it looks like all the board members are available. Festival of Lights will be on Sunday, December 1st this year with the usual parade, Santa, and refreshments from local restaurants. I'll also be announcing Citizen of the Year, so if you have any suggestions for the person that you think deserves that, send them to the town clerk. Email will be fine. The graphic designer, we need someone to help us with the top of the with the non-LED part of the message board. And also that involves developing a new town seal because there is not an original to our town seal. I mean, no one's been able to find an original to our town seal, so it's very hard to reproduce clearly. If anyone has suggestions for what in Amenia should be represented on that on the new town seal, you know, the bank, the charcoal kilns, the schoolhouse, please also email Dawn with your suggestions, especially people in the TV audience. Although I guess we'll put that on the webpage as well. Let's see, and last one is volunteer positions. Dawn will have a list of all town committees and boards with vacancies. Do you want to do?
It's part of my report.
Oh, it's part of your report. Okay, that's great. So Dawn will read a list of all the committees that have openings. If you want to get involved, please also submit a request to Dawn. And we would like to make these appointments before reorg on January 2nd. So on all these things, try to get them in the next couple of weeks. That's it. Dawn?
So good evening. For the month of October, the total state, county, and local revenues was $601.20, with the local share being remitted to the supervisor in the amount of $533.20. As you guys just heard, the supervisor did announce that we do have anticipated open volunteer positions coming up. That same list that we get to hear every year is our planning board, our ZBA, our Board of Assessment Review, our Recreation Commission, and our Board of Ethics. You will also hear in a moment that we have openings on our wastewater as well. So with that being said, at this time I'm requesting authorization to go ahead and advertise for said positions.
I make that motion.
Leo?
Second.
Paul? Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Revlar?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern? Yes. Thank you. So what's going to happen is, for those that are interested in either being reappointed or applying for said positions, there is a volunteer form that is available on our website. Also, you can just send an email with a letter of interest. In that letter of interest, it's a time for you to sell yourself, because that goes to the board ahead of time, so they'll get to have a little bit about you before we schedule those interviews. So do save the date, looking at either December 5th or December 19th. Once those applications start coming in, I'll start scheduling those interviews for the board.
Great.
So as you kind of got a heads heard there, we do have with regret, we do have a request for their resignation to be accepted this evening. That's Eve DeLeo from the wastewater. Will somebody?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Rosanna. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Revlar?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
I'd like to wish her all the best in her new move. So I know we're starting to talk about interviews going, and I announced at the last meeting that we did receive some applications for the rec supervisor's position. So I'm looking to set that interview. I know we have a special meeting coming up on November 14th. Is that an okay night to go ahead and set those appointments?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so I will reach out to all of the candidates that have expressed an interest to interview, and I'll start scheduling accordingly, and I'll get that out to you, if not tomorrow, probably Tuesday, to let you know the lineup.
Okay.
All right. And then one last community event. I know I've been asked multiple times, when's our breakfast? So our breakfast for the month of November is Sunday, November 17th. So we'll see everybody at the Firehouse for breakfast. And that concludes the town clerk's report for this evening.
Okay. Okay. So, we have two public hearings scheduled tonight. Excuse me. The first one is on the tax cap override. You know that the state has established a do you know what it is?
2%.
2%, right? Okay. A 2% maximum increase between last year's budget and this one. As I've said before, because we don't have a lot of control over the cost of our EMS service, that's created a pretty big spike, so we're definitely going to exceed 2%. There'll be more detail in the resolutions, but so the first issue is going over 2%. The second is about the 2025 preliminary budget, which has been on the website, and which has been discussed at previous meetings. So if anyone has...
So you have to open the public hearing.
Oh, so let me open the public hearing.
You need to make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'm working on that.
Okay, you're working. I make a motion that
He's
we
all
open
excited.
the
Got
public
Leo.
hearing
I'll second
For
that.
the tax cap?
for the tax
Okay,
cap.
matter only. Thank you,
I'll
Paul.
second that.
Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Council members Winters.
Yes.
Revillard.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Ahern. Yes. Okay, the time
Okay.
is 7:30.
Any comments on the tax cap override? Hey, Ken, fancy meeting you here.
Yeah. Of all the, never mind. Is this tax cap ongoing in perpetuity? Is it something that can be revisited? Is it just for a limited period of time?
What?
1 year.
Oh, for us, it's 1 year, but I mean, I think the state has kind of,
Every year, the state sets a cap at 2%. If at the end of the year, that particular year, the board or the town is going to go over that, they have to vote to override that tax cap for the year.
so at the moment, the
It's only for
legislature,
1 year.
but the legislature set it up as an ongoing thing, so it's in perpetuity as far as we know.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Judy.
This is just an informational question. I know for school districts, the 2% tax cap translates into a different figure depending on various things that are, that can adjust it, such as debt that may be paying off, those sorts of things. So like this year, our 2% tax cap was actually 6.79 or 6.27, something like that. Does that exist for the town also, or is it just a straight 2%?
You mean as a percentage?
Are there adjustments that are made to it?
No, we actually, I mean, we made adjustments in the budget, but the cap doesn't change.
It's not dead, it's really just, it impacts
You got it. Mr. Miller, you got to go up to the microphone, please.
Yeah, Judy, you're right. There are adjustments, but there's none that we really can take advantage of. Yeah. And that's been the case for the last, God knows how long. Yeah.
Okay, if there's no one else, I'd like to open the public
No,
hearing.
you have to close the public hearing.
Oh, damn. Okay, I'm sorry. I make a motion to close the public hearing on the tax cap override.
I'll second that.
It's 7:34. Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Council members Winters.
Yes.
Revillard.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Ahern. Yes.
Okay. So, does anyone have any comments on the...
Are you going to open the public hearing?
Sorry. I'd like to open the public hearing on the 2025 preliminary budget.
I'll
I'll
second
second.
that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Roseanne.
Yep, Paul. Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Council members Winters.
Yes.
Revillard.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Ahern. Yes. Now that 2025 budget, who wants to talk about it?
I have my own questions.
Can I help?
I'll go first, and I have my own questions.
I'll address this to all the council members who are not still on vacation. The one thing in the budget that I would hope you would consider and add is a provision for solar,
For what?
for solar energy. Start looking at how you can, even if you put a contingency fund, 25,000 aside, so that eventually this building or Beekman Park or any other, the town garage, it will ultimately, maybe not in your tenure on the board, but ultimately it will pay for itself. And we talk about conservation.
We have a champion for that, right? That's working on,
We have.
And you
yes,
also
we
get
have a-
grants, and there's a whole host of other things. But you got to start saving for it now. So
we
please,
have a town champion that has been working on that. Is it Stacy Mantell?
Yeah,
I
but I mean, with the CAC and the,
yeah.
I'm suggesting that's great.
but
And
you
it
want the
may
board to
happen
put
or it
some
may
money
not.
behind it.
It may happen or it may not. I'm suggesting you just put aside a little contingency fund for alternative energy. That's in the, it's in the comprehensive plan. It's
Oh.
in lots of places. And at least it may make up some shortfall in whatever your champion is going to.
All I'm suggesting, Ken, is reach out to Stacy Mantell and try to get some kind of little more firm thing and have it sent to the town board, and then we have something to work off of, rather than just us saying, okay, we're gonna put aside $10,000 or $15,000, because she had.
They're totally separate and independent. A contingency fund, you don't have to reach out anyway. You have the option to do something like that. And a lot of government have that. So that's all I'm suggesting before you lock your budget.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, anyone else have comments on the budget?
I have questions.
Oh, there you go.
So I know the last time we were discussing about purchasing a truck that could be used by multiple departments.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out where that would be in this budget. Is public safety and inspections, is that
That's
under?
building, yes.
Yeah,
Is
public
that-
safety.
That's the, so I'm not seeing anything there
Let me
that would
just-
represent
Let
that.
me just look at that. What page are you on?
I'm on page 5. So I didn't know if it got removed from there and we put it under a new line, or what happened to that particular $35,000, $40,000 we were talking about spending for
It is in there.
a
It's right
vehicle.
there.
It's in the,
Not on page
36,
5.
830.
What?
yeah, the 36,830. It's
second
the
line.
EQ line, the equipment line.
Right there.
That 38,
633.
36, 830?
Yes.
Okay. So I know that another time that we discussed this, and we punted this question off because last time we did not have Councilman Relabard here. And I believe that after speaking with him afterwards, he had mentioned that he wanted to be sure that this purchase wasn't, even though if it came underneath safety inspections budget line, that the vehicle would not be only allowed to be used by building and department.
My
It
thought
would be
was
allowed by
that it's
everybody.
a purchase for not just one specific department. And I even thought about it afterwards, and I'm not sure it should even be a truck.
Or a car,
A
whatever,
car,
whatever it may be.
You know, it might be more accessible for other people to use versus just the building department. And that's a good question. Should it be in the lines under that specific heading, you know, for the building department?
So does that mean that that's going to be the only department that uses it, or?
Yeah, that was my only, because again, I think there are, so, you know, this should be a vehicle for the town use in general.
It should be. In light of having been here for a year and seeing how people interact in the building, I'm not so sure that could actually happen, but I'd like to believe that it could.
Well,
Actually,
I think if we as a town board set the hours that this vehicle is going to be available to say to the building inspector, and then this amount of time, or these are the hours that it's going to be available to the town constable, then that's, you know, they're, at the end of the day, they're the employees for the town, right?
Let me give you a
And if
simple.
they can't follow those rules, then
Let me
they
give
should be
you
replaced.
a simple nonfiction Example, Michael's going to be out for what, 8, 9 weeks for knee
Yes.
surgery? The car's just going to sit there and nobody can use it?
Well, we actually are going to have a temporary building
Right,
inspector.
right.
A
But
hired
it was just
building.
a simple, example.
But
So, yeah.
I'm just saying that we as a town board set the rules to how the vehicle is shared.
Okay, that sounds great. Do you want to
Yeah,
draw
that-
something up, Paul?
Well,
I
that,
could, I mean,
Yeah, why don't
that's-
you take a first pass at that?
I think that that's exactly the part two, is that we would certainly all work together to come up with protocols, yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
I'll,
lovely.
I'll work on the protocol part. I just want to be sure that, okay, now that I've identified that's where it is, that just because it's under that budget line, that does not mean it's just for that department. Does that make a
Well,
difference?
I do not
Mr.
think
Miller,
it...
could you
Whoop.
step to the microphone and possibly answer that? Because you been our budget guy here.
Sure. You may want to close your public hearing and you can start a conversation about this.
I mean,
Yeah.
is there any other public comments? Because it's public comment, you guys are actually, you.
Oh, we're having a discussion
you-
now?
You
Okay.
kind of left that.
Yeah, okay, let's get back to
Okay.
public
All
comment.
right, I apologize.
Are there any other comments on the budget? Or do you have any more?
No, that was my only
Okay.
question. I apologize. That we let off into a discussion.
Tangents happen. So if you're done, you have to close the public hearing.
Okay, assuming there's no one else that wants to say anything. Okay, then I move that we close the public hearing on the preliminary budget.
I second.
7:41. Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Council members Winters.
Yes.
Revillard.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Maybe we can go to the,
Now,
I'll sit aside.
it's the next agenda item.
yes, the
is
next
to have
agenda item.
him talk.
Okay, so, so after the last meeting, Charlie put together, based on, well, he incorporated the comments that we had into this, into a final budget, which we will presumably try to incorporate any comments that were made tonight and have a vote a week from now at a special meeting. So, do you want to walk us?
Your question was about if it's a Bronco Sport utility vehicle is what Mike had requested, so it's an SUV. I keep calling it a truck, so I'm sorry, but the price is for an SUV. And it probably doesn't matter what line item you put it in. It's got to be in somebody's,
And the request came from him.
And yeah, exactly. And he's probably using it the majority of the time, so it probably is best to live there. If you ultimately next year approve the appropriation to actually purchase the vehicle.
Well, with us putting it in the budget, aren't we basically doing that? Yes, no?
We're putting in the budget, but we still have to.
Okay, I got you.
yeah.
I got you.
You'll have to pass a resolution to actually buy it, so you
Buy it.
get
Yeah, I got
another
you.
bite at the apple.
Understand.
So do you want to walk us through the
Sure,
changes
so
from last time?
the final budget that was sent to the town clerk and distributed to you guys earlier today incorporates all of the changes over the last couple of meetings to the preliminary budget that you made, creating then this final budget. So it incorporates, like this truck was in the preliminary, but you reduced your salaries back to their 2024 positions, so it incorporates that. The only thing that wasn't discussed at the last time is we hadn't received the final amount from NDP for the ambulance. So for 2025, it will be $480,762. It is a 30% increase, but that's much less than what their original offer is. However, their original offer had us starting at a much higher rate and then just increasing 50,000, bless you, for 2026, and then another 50 for 2027. They've really just spread out that total increase over 3 years. So there will be a bigger bump next year. But that doesn't impact this budget here.
So is it my understanding that we're going to basically keep the same level of services we have now?
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. The 24-hour ambulance service with an ambulance posted in Amenia, one in Dover and one in Millerton Northeast for coverage.
And the same mandatory response times and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw something in the paper about Sue Serino and money. Is that going to impact us at all?
Unfortunately, no. She did, it was a couple of $1 million,
Right.
which is a lot of money, but when you think about the whole county, it's not a lot of money. And that is really for them to possibly do an ambulance or two that would supplement coverage.
Okay.
I mean, I personally would like to see the county mandate that either they establish coverage for every town and city, or that they mandate that every town and city have coverage.
So,
Like Pine Plains currently doesn't.
I kind of think, I'm going to ask this quick question because I have had some constituents in the area question or ask if we would ask this question. Would it make sense for the town to basically hire and furnish their own ambulance squad?
Well, it's a scenario we can run the numbers on. I think that probably would be very costly. The thing about the town is we really can't bill Medicare and insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance.
You can't.
You really can't. It's one of the reasons that the fire departments don't do that anymore. Dawn can speak to that a little bit better. But it also then means that you have to purchase all of the equipment.
Yep.
We would probably need, backup equipment, and then you would have, 3 people,
12.
minimum full-time, plus you'd have to have some swing people.
Well, if you were doing 24-hour service, you would have 2 people per crew, that's 6.
Yeah.
Right.
So you would look
Yes,
at, you
exactly,
would
sorry.
probably look at about 10 employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
Roughly.
gets to be a big
For-
package.
Yeah, okay.
And as you've mentioned before, rightly, what we're paying for is standby service.
Yep.
If we had more calls, which clearly we don't want more calls, but if we had more, they would bill more on insurance, and, the standby cost would be less.
Yep, I just wanted to ask the question because I had been asked that.
It's a
from
good
the
one, and I've
community.
seen that other people have asked you about, are we paying for coverage for Millerton or Northeast
No,
when
we're
our
not.
ambulance goes there? And that's not the case. Like,
Yep.
we have, they come to us.
Yeah.
I mean, Kent, Sharon, it's a web.
Yeah, it's, I think they were more upset, or some people felt that we were sending our ambulance to another community, the shared services.
Yeah.
And they had a problem with it, but that's just the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, the county established that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
rule. I
and
mean,
it should work like that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's problematic is that some towns don't pay for an ambulance service, and they kind of rely on the kindness of, their neighbors.
The neighbors, then that's
Which
the
is a little frustrating, because again, the county won't take responsibility for some centralized rules for that. Was there anything else that changed that we need to
No,
discuss?
I just wanted to sort of point out that the mill rate, was quite high when we had a higher rate for the ambulance. So it's now down, it's only a
What page
a
are you
4
on?
point, it's the page number 1, but it's the second after the cover page. So it's a 4.5% increase from last year.
Charlie, only just for my understanding, why is there a 12.6% decrease in the water fund mill rate?
So it's an interesting thing. Like, I personally don't think this percentage change column tells you a whole lot, but the reason that it's changed that much is because the assessed value went up higher. The actual amount to be raised by taxes is relatively the same from last
Can I
year.
ask what page we're on? Is that 12?
We're on page 1.
Page 1, oh, okay.
That's weird, my page 1 doesn't look anything like that. Huh.
Yeah, your
Which,
page 1 is totally different.
what's your cover page? What's
He's reading the preliminary. Go
first-
in your
You're
packet.
in the preliminary
Oh,
budget.
Jesus, sorry.
Final budget.
But Brad, it's a good question. If you go to page 12, which is the water fund section, at the very bottom, you'll see that the appropriation from the adopted from 2024 was 206,079, and this year is 208, so just like really, $2,000 difference. And we're estimating the revenues, which is the meter reads, to be relatively the same too. So it's more about that, the assessed value of that district, and that district has 382 parcels, increased.
And we also seem to have a better or more dependable deal with the water operator.
Yeah, the water operator's been great.
So does anyone on the board have any things that, since last meeting, they've been thinking about in terms of wanting to change?
Maybe we take some time and look through and make sure everything is
Yeah, I mean, we can,
in order.
but all the changes are, parcels. Charlie, you did a sheet last time that had the stuff that actually increased and decreased. Was there nothing that increased or decreased between preliminary and final?
It was only because that had been published.
Oh.
If we change anything on this, I will put an amendment sheet
Oh, right,
so that you
okay.
can see what the differences are.
Okay. Got it. I'd still like a $2,000 honorarium for the town historian, but
Oh, did you ask her?
Oh yeah, I talked to her.
What did she say, no?
No, she didn't say no, but it sounded like the board might have said no the last time that came up.
What was that?
The town historian, Betsy Strauss, doesn't get any money for like being in that office 2 days a week or 2 afternoons a week, and there's really nothing. What?
Did you find something else?
What's the distress?
Nothing, he's just asked me a question. We're good.
Sorry. And they don't actually have any budget for doing anything with the material they have, which just seems strange to me, but no. If no one else is interested in that.
It's because they're an outside association renting from us to be here.
No.
I do have a question about the water, well, and I don't know if this is appropriate place, but we got an email today about re-levying on water. People that are not paying their water bill over the course of the year and waiting for it to go on their taxes. That can be an issue because the money is not available if we need it for the water. So is that something that we should look at? Like, I guess there's a fee of $25, but, if...
Right, I had a conversation with Nancy about that this week, and she felt that it needed to be a bigger fee in order to discourage people from not paying their water bill, which sounds logical to me. There's probably a number of other fees that we should look at. The DOB fines are quite low for certain things, especially for zoning issues, and there was another category too, but I think we should go through all the town fees, because I think some of them are not working.
Adding on to Mrs. Ham's particular question, I was concerned looking, what are we charging them every quarterly? $75 every 3 months?
Are you talking about what their bill is?
Yeah. For their water rates, right? It's like
Yeah.
75 or so?
Yeah, it's based off of their usage.
So
Yes.
the average home is 75, and I'm seeing some of these bills
There's a baseline charge.
are
Yeah,
rather large. I'm
They haven't
curious.
paid.
Yeah, in other words, they've been paid for a long time.
I'm curious how long it's been since that they paid. If we can get that broken down, I would
Yearly,
appreciate it.
yeah. So most of those reassessments are, well, it's reassessing to their property value, and it gets put on their tax bill, or they haven't paid for the year.
So this is the first time that we've done this, and
We do it
No, we
every
do it every
year.
year.
We do it every
Oh,
year.
okay.
I agree with you guys. I think it is high. It's about 20% of the metered sales that's going to, that wasn't collected. So yes, probably increasing the fines. Nancy's also said that some of the addresses she has where the mail goes are wrong. And
so then this is where I'm confused. If we do this every year, we've already assessed it to their taxes, why haven't we already collected this
You
money?
do.
Well-
You're made a whole, 100% whole on the water.
yeah.
Every
What-
year?
So I don't know if the question is being proposed in a way that we're having, I don't know if it's being proposed, and this is what it's trying to get to. But what happens is someone doesn't pay their bill. When you don't pay your bill, it gets turned over to the county. County adds it to the tax bill that I collect. All year, you guys, for the first 5 months, you guys heard me talking about all of the different monies that were collected. By February 28th, that district has been made whole. So you guys are 60 days past due from when it was, for the year. But you guys do get paid whole.
So, all right, so if the average yearly cost for water for an average home is $300, I'm seeing,
Well, single-family homes, it's $75 per 5,000. Multiple homes, it's $110. Commercial, $135. And anything additional of $1,000, there's a $5 fee.
so that's why I'm seeing these much
So
larger,
you're seeing these larger
$1,200,
fees. I have
bills.
several properties.
Gotcha.
I have several properties over the course of the year that do not pay their water bill every month. They let it get re-levied, and then they let their mortgage, then it gets incorporated within their mortgage.
Gotcha.
Some folks just maybe can't budget to save the
Yeah,
extra
I know, I
$200.
understand.
My water bill is $200 every quarter. So, if it was an option to go ahead and just let it go re-levied and I can save it, for some, it may be a financial situation
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
choose
no,
to do
no,
it.
I understand that. I was just wondering if it had been, this been going on for years, because I saw some of these bills were like, say, $1,500.
So
and
you
I'm
would have to
thinking-
look at each one individually to know what it was. So I don't know the report because the re-levy report wasn't shared with me yet, so I didn't
Okay.
know it was
All
out.
right.
But you'll be able
We
to see it.
just got it today.
Okay. So that you need to have more details, and I'm sure the water department will be looking at that if they already have not looked at that, because that could have a play on what the rates are currently, and maybe, that could be a potential question. It can go both ways. I understand it's frustrating for the staff to have to, print it out of the machine and send it to the county, but that's just part of the process. It's no
Okay.
different than me collecting the taxes and what I return.
Gotcha.
But as a whole, for the town to understand, you guys are paid in full and compensated on or before February 28th
Okay.
for your special districts.
Okay.
And I'll just further to that, because Dawn is collecting as the tax collector taxes for the town, the special districts, and the county. We keep the county money and make ourselves whole on all of those special districts and the town budget, and then we send the rest along with, you go find your money to
Yeah.
the county. The trade-off for that is we could be like collecting interest on some of the county money if we didn't have that agreement, but it definitely would not outweigh us being made whole within a couple of months.
Okay.
The average, I just did this really quick, so of these ones that are in arrear, yeah, there's 80, let me just get to the right thing, sorry. Looks like there's about 80 or so. The average is $363. So that
they
to me
waited a
seems
year.
like about a year.
Yeah,
And
that seems fair, but some of
Yeah.
them I noticed were up there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
averaged. There's a lot that are like, less than $100. And then, yeah, there are a couple that are, $1,100, $1,200. Actually, there's only two that are that. And I would imagine those are probably either.
I think the
this is a
highest one I
multi-
saw was 1,400.
17, yeah, well, yeah, there's one that's 17.
17, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and one that's about 1,200. And if I look them up,
You have a
which I
water
can, I bet they're both probably multifamilies. Yeah, multifamilies.
Okay.
And Nancy does say that she doesn't have the right addresses. Like, it's just,
So this is something that's happened every year for years now, and this is the way it's dealt with.
Do just like every other tax that the town collects.
yeah. And really, it is, what was it, like 30,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about $30,000. So, I guess you could say we're not getting interest off the 30,000 because
No.
we do put that into, but it's probably not that significant.
So we would just need to increase the fines so that they would be more compliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
although
you're-
Dawn is, I guess, saying that it's helpful to people who are having trouble paying.
Yeah, so there's that too.
I have some, and just being tax collecting also with the school district the last handful of years, some people, and I have my numbers usually during tax collection season when I sit there and I'm telling you how many and compare it to last year, so you guys knew, so you knew back in May how compared those numbers were to the prior year. But I take the school district as a whole, so for the last 5 years, I see it's usually similar numbers and similar parcels, and then they let that school bill roll over into their property bill, so that way they're only paying one bill a year, so that's just how some people
Yeah.
financially.
You're paying more. You're paying the,
But to us, that's a huge, that 5% is huge, but for others, it may be either that they need the additional time or they have that money in a really good interest-bearing account. I mean, you don't know.
They only wanna pay once
I
a
mean,
year.
and they only want to pay once a year. Because there's some states and actually throughout the county that their tax bills are different. So like our school, you can do it in 2 payments, but not every school can. Some have to pay, like if you go to Westchester, they have a different taxing schedule than we do. So they're not familiar with ours, and sometimes it takes our new residents a little, like it takes a full cycle to realize how we do our taxes.
Okay. So to come back to this, do you guys have any other changes you want to make to this? Okay, then I will only change the title of this and the title of the last column to adopted, because you'll adopt it next week at your meeting, at your scheduling.
Thank you.
Oh, and a big congratulations to Nicole. I forgot before I sat down. I've already congratulated her once, but so
We
that
have
everybody
comments at
knows.
the end.
He did in the beginning.
Wait, what?
I'm just wondering if there's going to be a comment session on the end, because I
Yes.
haven't known the information about the.
Just ask.
Yes,
for
there will be
comment session.
comments at the
Later.
end. It just didn't get into the agenda. So we will do that after town board comments. All right. So the next issue under discussion is the Beekman Park Pavilion project. Tracy Saladay, the architect, has been visiting me. Ian had wanted our town engineer to review her bid package, and there were several issues about the timing of when this went out and how it was going to be broken up. But I think that they're pretty close to resolving that now. So I hope that that's going to happen. Maybe by our next, not the meeting next week, but maybe in 2 weeks. Do you know anything more?
No, I was, the last what's going to happen is that we're just going to get the drawings from the architect and proceed forward. Is that,
I believe that's what the recommendation.
that was the last discussion that we had, right? And we kind of all agreed on? Is that still agreeable with the, you're going to have to step up to the microphone. I see Mike back there getting excited.
Yeah, the Rec Commission meets next Tuesday, and it's my understanding we've been trying not to discuss it through email, but I suspect that is what the Rec Commission will agree upon, yes, is that we simply get the drawings and
Then proceed forward, kind of like we
proceed from
did-
there.
Like we
yes.
did a couple years ago with the fencing and all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it appears to have gotten
It seemed,
well beyond what we ought to be going through to
I
get this
think it'll be a
done.
lot easier if the rec commission just kind of takes it over.
I think so.
Okay.
The update on the graphic designer and the LED signage, we sort of need the graphic designer in order to move ahead with the LED sign, because that's got to be incorporated into it. We've spoken to 4 graphic designers and have bids from 2. I will go, I've gone through, but I'll make a recommendation to the rest of you or send you. There's a low bidder, so I would probably recommend that we go with that person because their portfolio looked really good and they've done similar projects. So I'll try to get a resolution for the next meeting so that we can get that. And the LED sign stuff, Charlie, I know you've been in touch with them more recently. Will we be making a decision on the proposal from them at the next meeting? I know we,
I'll send it to you. I'm just waiting.
okay, great.
And then electrician.
Okay, so the next item is the cannabis local law.
So I kind of,
Yes?
before we get too far into
Oh,
that, is I
yeah.
was really hoping that our town lawyer, or the lawyer would be here, so,
Well, we can move on to something else.
yeah, let's,
Okay.
I would like to step out right quick.
Sure.
and place a phone call, see if he's actually coming.
Okay. Yeah, he knew he was going to be late, but go right ahead. In that case, then, we have only 2 resolutions tonight. The first is adopt, well, why don't I actually just read from the resolutions themselves? Okay, here we go. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, do you know the resolution number, Dawn?
111.
Okay, resolution number 111 of 2024, re-adopting a local law of the town of Amenia, New York to override the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2025 established in General Municipal Law 3-C. Whereas a resolution was duly adopted by the town board of the town of Amenia, introducing proposed local law number
X.
111. Is that 111?
No, local law is X.
It's X. Okay. Local Law X of 2024, entitled Local Law X of 2024, override the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2025, established in the General Municipal Law 3C. Didn't I just say that? And whereas the public hearing was duly advertised in the Millerton News, the official newspaper of the town, and whereas the public hearing was held tonight, November 7th, 2024, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to said proposed local law or any part thereof, and whereas the town board determined that the proposed local law was not subject to environmental review, and whereas the town board of the town of Amenia, after due deliberation, finds that it is in the best interest of the town to adopt said local law, now therefore it be resolved that the town board of the town of Amenia hereby adopts local law X of 2024, entitled Local Law X of the year 2024, to override the tax limit for the fiscal year 2025 established in General Municipal Law 3C, a copy of which is attached here too and made a part hereof. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Rosanna. Okay. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Amen. Yes.
So was that 15 minutes? Okay, well, we may have
my chicken
to vamp for a little while.
My chicken scratch.
Okay, so resolution number 112 of 2024, introducing a proposed local law number
X.
X. Okay. You don't want me to make it Y so we can tell?
No, because this will be one. We don't know
Okay.
when this is going to go in.
Okay. Okay, introducing proposed local law number X of the year 2024, creating a new chapter X entitled Advisory Boards. The backstory on this is that when it came time to form the Economic Development Committee, Ian noted that we don't actually have any procedure for forming a committee or a board, and so he drafted something so that we will, henceforth be doing it according to some procedure. So I will read this. Whereas the town board of the town of Amenia has determined that organized advisory boards can provide important and useful information and ideas to the town board when it is reviewing and considering appropriate action or policy with regard to town issues, functions, and/or projects. And whereas the town board is desirous of enacting a local law to provide authority for the creation of advisory boards in the town of Amenia, and whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is a type 2 action as determined in 6 NYCRR 617.5C 33, and accordingly the town board hereby expressly determines that this action is not an action that requires review pursuant to the provisions of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby introduces for consideration of its adoption proposed local law X of the year 2020, creating a new chapter X entitled Advisory Boards in the form annexed hereto. And be it further resolved that the town board has determined that the proposed action is a type 2 action as determined in 6. This is a repeating of a previous paragraph, but I'll trust our lawyer on this. Type 2 action is determined in 6 NYCRR 617.5C 33, and accordingly the town board hereby expressly determines that this action is not an action that requires review pursuant to the provisions of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, And be it further resolved, I think we probably can strike that, but I will let Ian make a final decision. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby schedules a public hearing regarding the proposed adoption of the annexed local law for 7 p.m. on the 7th day of November 2024, to be held at Town Hall.
No, it has to be 7 PM on, it has to.
Oh, we haven't had this yet, I'm sorry.
Yep, this is when you guys have
This
to
is gonna
set
be
the date.
This is going to be the 21st,
So will the
right?
19th give you time to publish?
It has to be in there for 2 meetings, and it goes in on the, it goes on the 14th. So now that we're having 2 meetings in December,
We can have a public hearing on December 19th.
December 5th,
well, we're doing the 5th?
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
the
But
5th
that's,
and
I thought you
19th.
had to have 30 days, you told me. No?
This has to just be there not less than 10 days.
Okay. So then we can do the 5th.
Want to do
Okay.
December, well, we weren't having all these meetings.
Right.
So
Right.
5th
December
5th
5th.
of December.
So December 5th, yep.
Okay. Okay, on the 5th day of December, I stand corrected, 2024, to be held at Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, and the town clerk is directed to post a notice of public hearing in the town's official newspaper, the Millerton News, and on the signboard maintained by the town clerk in Town Hall, not less than 10 days prior to said public hearing date, and that such notice shall be in the following form. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Leo, Roseanne, so it'll be in the paper. 7, sorry. Supervisor Blackman,
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Fablelaro?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay, so since Ian isn't here yet, why
He
don't...
should be here shortly, yes?
Right, but he isn't here yet.
Yeah, we can get going.
So why don't we have our second preliminary public comment now?
Yeah, he's got another 5-10 minutes before we see him.
Okay, so having heard that the reason the increase in the town mill rate will be because you are essentially putting off part of the increase that's going to come, I'd like you to consider, and believe me, I understand that having a higher tax increase is not a good thing, but if what you're going to do is pretty much ensure that we're also not going to get the star back next year because the increase will go over the 2% override, I'd like you to consider biting the bullet and doing it this year in the hopes of not having everybody lose their star rebate next year.
I'm not sure if I'm quite understanding what you're trying to say.
You have to keep the tax increase below 2% or nobody gets their star rebate at the end of the year.
We have to stay under the 2%, that I understand.
Yes. So
But-
if you increase part of the increase for the in Northern Dutchess Paramedics, NDP, and leave a large amount, because Ian had said that it was going to be larger up front and then only 50,000 each year after that. So if you are leaving a much larger chunk of what the increase is going to be,
You're talking about the ambulance service.
yes, for next year, then you may be pretty much guaranteeing that we will go over the 2% next
second
year
year.
also. So I think that's something I would like you to try to iron out with Ian and think about. As I say, I realize it's not easy to say we're going to raise it more than we have to, but if the ultimate result is that you're losing a rebate for people next year too,
2 years in a row, no, I understand. that.
so that's, I just think it's worth thinking about and talking about.
Oh, before you go, I have a question. Judy?
Oh, okay.
Judy?
Oh, sorry. Couldn't see where it was coming from.
Yeah, sorry. How does the school tax budget?
We didn't go over the,
Budget, so STAR is based upon the town?
both of them.
It's based on both?
Yes.
So you didn't go over, but the town goes over?
But the town goes over, so you aren't
if
getting
either
it.
one goes over, then you,
Yep.
So we have no choice, we're going to go over no matter what.
Did we go over last year?
No.
over the 2%?
I think we did.
We did go over the
Yeah,
2%
'cause we've
last
been-
year.
Yeah.
I
And what
think
about
we've-
the year before?
Hi, George.
And, all right, I'm sorry.
Oh,
How we
Oh,
doing,
sorry.
George?
Well, I'm confused. I'm George Bestranson.
Me too.
Last year, you did this override last year, and I asked, wouldn't that prevent us getting a rebate? And I was told that the state discontinued that.
I thought they did.
Well, if that's the case, then
I don't want to swear that that's the case, but I'm just telling you what happened last year.
I don't remember seeing a rebate check this past year.
No.
So
Yeah, I mean, the difference
only
is.
some that get a rebate check in the mail
Okay.
are those that have a newer home. If you've been in your home quite a distance, if you look at your school bill, on the school bill, it shows you how much your amount of your star credit was, and that's how your
There's-
amount was
Oh, okay.
The
decreased.
difference is, the old rule was that they lowered your tax assessment based upon the star. The new rule is they're giving you a rebate, depending, when that rule came in, was it 3 years ago? 2 years, I don't know. So they give you a rebate, so they charge you the full amount, you pay it, your school tax, and then you get the rebate in the mail. And what you're saying is that rebate you didn't get last year?
Well, I hadn't
You have to go up to the, yeah.
I haven't gotten a rebate.
Yeah, we hadn't filed for the rebate last
Oh,
year
'cause
because
you
we
just
just
bought
bought a
the
new
home.
house, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding that both had to. However, I'm trying to look it up now to see if that's correct. But perhaps Ian's probably, he's not a tax lawyer, so. I would check on that, I guess. I'll try to talk to our business official tomorrow and make sure
Yeah.
and let you know. That's the way it used to be. It may have changed because it's been a while since I owned a house, so
Yeah.
that may have changed.
okay,
Thank you.
great. Okay, any other public comments? Any other matters from the board? Who would put that?
Actually, there are a couple of things. There were some people that asked about some services. One of them was a place to return prescriptions, old pills. I called the Amenia drugstore, and the woman that I spoke to said that she was going to look into it because at one point, I guess they did have it in Amenia. Or one of the other stores that she worked with, and she said that she would look into it. I also spoke with Deirdre Houston and said that if the drugstore didn't have any luck getting it for themselves, then she had assisted people on getting them before, so she would look into that. But the pharmacist that I spoke to is only in 1 day a week, and she's not here until Friday. So we are working on trying to get a box in the drugstore for people to take their pills back, or any kind of drugs. So the other thing that came up was hazardous waste. People are feeling like the county stops before Millbrook, and it doesn't go any further, and that all the hazardous waste disposals were out in Poughkeepsie. Again, I was told originally that that was a county program. After speaking with Deirdre, she said she thought it was state, but she was going to talk to AJ, and together they were going to try to see if they could work out some way of having a hazardous waste disposal day someplace on this part of the county. The other thing that came up was shredding, having a shredding day. I spoke to Mark at the Bank of Millbrook, and he said that he would look into it for providing a shred day like Salisbury Bank did in the town of Amenia. So those are some of the things that came up. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, I really kudos to the Amenia Free Library. They really kind of offered a lot of things. I went to a lovely mystery dinner last Saturday night, and it was very nice. It was a lot of fun. They also have they have a monthly tea society thing where they have food from different cultures. On November 9th, it's the Mideastern culture, but there is a tea society, which I haven't gotten to, but it sounds, really interesting. And they also are having the Leathermen, an American Vagabond showing. I believe that is on Friday.
It's Friday.
But they're doing a lot of things and providing a lot of activities for the town, which I think is really great. Then they do have a book club, and so there's a lot of things going on in the Amenia Library, so kudos to them.
And
So
do they
for-
have an email list or just the website to find out?
Basically, the website, and they may have an email list too. They also, they have a calendar that is posted, I guess, in the library. And, some of these things that you also see on the Wausau community page.
Okay.
So, yes, and I really would be worthwhile going, and looking, because they do have a lot of interesting activities.
Excellent. Man of the hour. Nicole, did you have?
I just wanted to mention that the VFW Post 444 is having their monument ceremony on Monday. I think it's at 11.
11,
I think it's 11.
Yeah.
Is it 11:11 or is it 11?
11 at 11.
Yes.
No, I know that. The
Monday.
time is 11, though, not 11:11, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I just didn't want people to be confused. Okay. Thank you.
And then also, I was going to announce for recreation, because Judy was so nice to bring in the flyer today, to join us next Saturday, November 16th, for a holiday craft hour for the kids at 10 to 11, and we'll hold it here upstairs in the rec room.
Cool.
Okay, that's great. Well, I think that brings us to just time for Ian to arrive, and so we can discuss finalizing the changes in the cannabis law. So, Paul, did you want to start with that since?
So what is this here what is this that you distributed?
Oh, that was a list of things that seemed to be open questions
Okay.
in what we received.
All right, so the number 2 there, why is this considered a special permit? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Do you know the answer to that question, Ian? Because I'm not sure I do.
Myself, no, that comment came from the planning board.
Certainly
I don't know
find
where it
out.
came from. I mean,
Did he get
that
a
should be
copy of this?
directed, I don't have that.
I think you may buried somewhere.
Check.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was,
Swearing tonight.
I was confused as to why this is considered a special permit.
I don't know the answer, and I was curious about that too.
Beautiful. And is it, and if it's, is it really required that this be a special permit? It's just a retail store opening up a business, just like a
Right.
liquor store.
Well, that's what I wanted, what I wanted to know is what was the difference between
Yeah.
the way this was treated and the liquor store was treated. But if board members have comments on these things,
I
and
actually-
you had your own comments, right?
I do have
Rosanna?
my own comments.
Okay.
Can I make my own comment, or do you
You
want
can
to?
make your own comments.
That's okay? Okay. So one of the things that when I was going through, and I went through the state law as well, the state law says same street and 200 feet, and I don't see that in here.
Say it again?
The state law, when it talks about distances, it said a dispensary cannot be on the same street and like 200 feet from the synagogue.
So whenever they mean the same street, that's where the 2,000 comes in?
No, it just says, when they identified the spots that said the distances from the school and all that, they said it cannot be on the same street or avenue as a school and 500 feet. I don't know why, but I'm just telling you, that's what it says.
That, I've never, I would have to see that. I've never,
All right, well,
that it can't be on the
I did-
same street. That would make no sense. So that would say if something was a half a mile away and there was a school on that street a half a mile away, then no one would ever be able to
I'm
open that
just
up.
telling you that's what it said. But anyway, be that as it may. The other thing is they gave definitions and they described, the school, the 500 feet from the school, and it said any public or private elementary school, parochial, blah, 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 the playgrounds, athletic fields, recreational and/or instructional facilities, and it can only be it has to be 500 feet from those. My question to you, my question is, then why would it not have to be 500 feet from a recreational, instructional, or play area from a town-owned place? It's the same kids that are going to that school, and then, so I think it should be 500 feet. I think it should be 500 feet for everything, and I think it will save a lot of problems. But I definitely think from the park, because it does say, it describes, the park is going to be what they describe a school as covering. I don't know if that's making sense to you.
I don't know that that last part made sense to me, I'm sorry.
So if you can't be 500 feet of a recreational athletic field from a school,
Right?
why is it, we should also be 500 feet from recreational.
From a public park.
Athletes from
Yeah,
a
I
public
thought-
park. And we're not. And
Did we
according
not
to
have
the
that?
plan, it doesn't
Okay,
say
I have
that.
it.
No, so so I think maybe what New York State was, I can't speak for their intent, but I would think that a school is a gathering place for young children. A public park is a gathering place for kids and adults. That might be why they made the distinction.
Well, that playground out there, I don't think is for adults.
I can't speak for that one way or the other, but, you know, especially
No,
with today's,
so
but,
my
but I'm
point
I'm
is,
just,
I
all I'm
think
trying to
it-
make the point of is,
Streamline it and make
why
it
did,
fun
why
for
did, the-
across
why
the
did,
board.
the-
Right.
why New York State themselves made that distinction? I can't answer that.
Okay.
I think one of the issues, as I went through this, there was a number of concerns that I had, which I had already discussed, but I do think that we need to revisit them and actually kind of clarify some of the issues.
Well, we're
The
actually
state law-
hoping to wrap this up tonight,
This-
finally.
Okay, so the state law talks about a public youth facility, right? Exclusively a public youth facility. I didn't really find a great definition of that, right? And the distance requirement for that, I believe, was also 500. Going along the same lines of schools, which seems to be the intent, is if it's involving children, keep it at 500 feet. That seems to be the intent. But that's something that is going to have to be, because the way we describe it here, we say school grounds, and then we have a different measurement for playgrounds, public parks, and public recreational facilities. So that seems to be, I don't know if that veers from the state law in the wrong direction, because it's actually giving it a shorter distance as opposed to a longer distance.
Paul, you had given us the Pine Plains law as
Yeah,
an
and well,
example, and it
but-
has the same dimension for everything. It
Yeah,
seems like a lot easier.
That is correct, but also our intention was to allow at least some business to be able to open in the downtown area. I don't have a problem with us expanding the numbers a little bit, but I don't want us to exclude every possibility of anywheres within the downtown area. Say, on the other side of 22 going up north on 44.
Well, there shouldn't be any, I mean, there's not a, I mean, I don't think there's anything of these categories.
Well, if you put a library in there at 500, how far does a library at 500 feet, how far does
Those
that?
maps, it looked like it was not, hold on a second.
I don't think, how the heck did I get that?
You're talking on the other
lucky
side
you.
of the deli?
Yeah. Going up that
Well,
direction.
But if we do 500 feet for the park, is that still 500 feet from,
That's definitely 500 feet from the park, but is that 500
is
feet?
it 500 feet from Beekman Park?
The plot thickens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It starts to, you start making these numbers that much more bigger, then basically you ensure that the only place that a place could open would be out, say, by the train station or over at Fresh Town. That would be the only two locations in this community that somebody could open it, unless they opened up their own store at their own farm.
That's the nature of this community.
What, Sharon? I'm sorry. Clarify, please.
I was out of order, I just was answering him.
Do you want to say more? Because you're going to have to go to the microphone, but.
We'll have them pop
Thank
comment
you.
now.
This town is 6 separate hamlets and a mountain down the middle. It just happens to be designed in a way that what you're looking for doesn't work very well here. And there's lots of people that believe that. So I just think that's part of the problem.
There will be a public hearing, Sharon, and once we get the specifics, once we get the
to the
stuff
end.
right.
I'm ready to get to the end of it tonight. I'm ready to compromise and get this thing resolved, because we have discussed this since January, and now we come up on November. I have never seen something take so much more time, which should be to me, should be pretty simple. Should be pretty simple as far as trying to allow a business to open up. That's
Okay, so I was well, did you have more stuff?
Well, I did.
Rosanna?
The other was just a question, it wasn't.
yeah.
So in the state law, it goes through a lot of the details for branding, interior lighting, and all that stuff, right? Who monitors that? The security, the disposing of the waste products from the decommissioning plan, all of those things. Who is the one who monitors that? Is that the state, or is it the community, or is it, I don't know who monitors that. Because none of that branding and of the interior lights is in the plan that I saw that we got from Alicia. So where does that come?
It might be helpful to actually ask Deidre about that and see whether the state actually has a way to do that, or whether they're expecting the local communities are going to do it.
Right, so who would I ask?
What happens at a liquor store? Who monitors to make sure it's
Exactly.
not under the age of 18?
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
So there's what they call the OC,
Yeah.
there's what they call the OCM board, right? That's the New York
Okay.
State thing, and it probably operates in the same fashion as the New York State Liquor Board, I would think.
Yeah,
And
the
they-
what is
the
that?
Cannabis Board is going to operate like the State Liquor Authority, and I imagine that that would be the same enforcement body.
You mean they have their own inspectors, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't know for sure on how they're rolling out the enforcement of it, but I imagine that the office, that the Cannabis Board would have the same authority as the SLA.
Okay, that's not, I was just questioning, I was just
All right,
asking.
yeah, no. So can we start up here at the top, like at number 2? Do we know what a special permit is? Why?
Again, that wasn't my comment. Those comments are from your planning board.
I know.
I think we,
I do
I
actually
can't
talk
speak for
about
them
that.
as to...
They say that a special, I did actually look at that. A special permit is for a use that's not permitted in the town. In other words, where it just doesn't exist, where that use doesn't exist in the zoning code.
But
So-
that's what we're trying to create, correct? That's been the whole intent of this, of us going through all this, for all these months, is to create this so that it can become a new zoning law before we move on to the opt-in. That was what was recommended to us all the way back in January.
A special permit will require you to go before the planning board, so the planning board can have some kind of oversight over as to what exactly is happening on that, for that business. It's going to give, versus if it's just permitted as of right, you wouldn't have
I
that.
think it oversteps
Well,
personally.
it was sort of funny because I looked to see what other kinds of businesses or things need special permits, because I thought nuclear power plant might be on that list. But a cell tower, I mean, a cell tower is one of those things
That
where
makes
you need to
sense.
get a special permit, and an adult business needs a special permit. And I guess I'm trying to figure out whether a cannabis dispensary should be treated like an adult business or a liquor store. I mean, it seems to me that if the state has legalized the use of marijuana, that we should be modeling this on a liquor store. And I don't think a liquor store has to go through all these steps. So I guess that's a question for the board. I mean, what should we be modeling this on?
Right, so, I mean, and what we're trying to do here is create a local law.
Right.
So then it would not be subject to a special permit.
I think that needs to be struck personally.
Don't you think, again, as Leo said, it would be easier just to model it after a liquor store?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't it just be easier to model it after a liquor store?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole point I've been trying to drive
Yeah.
through this whole process, or all these months, is,
Well, we're finally doing it.
okay, beautiful. All right,
Okay,
so number 3.
Number 3, there were definitions in 2 different places, which I didn't understand because it seemed like they were defining the same terms, but there are 3 types of dispensaries listed, and I have seen that in laws from outside of New York State, but does that come from the state? Like, I'm sorry, it's right here.
It does. They talk about They talk
It probably
about
comes-
medical use, they talk
A lot of
about
the stuff comes
dispensaries.
from the
Yeah.
Right, so, but,
state law.
but another code I read had very different rules for a medical dispensary as opposed to a recreational dispensary as opposed to
Section
something
2A.
else.
They're
A
actually,
a micro business with dispensary. I'm thinking that the micro business with dispensary is a farm, but I could be wrong about
Yes,
that.
that's correct. That's correct. The
Okay.
micro business applies to the farms. That's correct.
Okay, well, the problem here is just that none of those are defined. They're under definitions in section 2, point A.
Yeah.
And they're also in, wait, I wrote down what it is. Sorry.
Section 2B.
I'm sorry, it'll turn up, but there's definition and word usage. So it's in section 4, they repeat the same, there's also definitions, and it has registered organization with dispensing and micro business with retail dispensary. The other two are the cannabis retail dispensary, and cannabis is defined. So again, there've been a lot of fingerprints on this, but I think that that needs to be just organized in terms of having it in one place. That just seems like it's incredibly confusing.
So if I'm reading through this, right, you got Cannabis Control Board, which is COM, or OCM, or no, CCB, and then you got the Office of Cannabis Management.
Right.
And then you got a cannabis retail dispensary.
Yep.
That's just that. Registered organization with dispensing, that's just a regulation board, just like CCB or OCM.
Right.
Micro businesses with the retail dispensary. With
Right.
retail dispensary, that means if they get a micro grow license that we talked about on the farm.
Right.
And then it says school grounds, any public, private out, so they're just giving definitions.
Right, but they're doing it in two places, and they don't
Oh, okay, so
align.
that's what you're saying, all right, I understand what you're saying.
And these things weren't defined. I'm sorry, what?
the school grounds is the only one that's actually a definition.
Yeah, there's only a definition. So, again, I don't know who is responsible for this, but they actually need to be defined, and it needs to be the same.
Same all the way
They
through.
need to make sure that everything on one gets moved. And I don't know, the thing that was strange to me about the difference between these two things is that, for God's sakes. Section 4.
Which
I'm
question?
looking for section 4 because that was the other place that
But
had.
we're still on question number 3, right? We're still on number 3 that we're working on, or did you jump off of that?
No, I am on that.
Okay.
About where the 3 types of dispensaries come from.
Okay.
But I think there's also this issue about definitions being in 2 places.
Okay, so they just need to clarify definitions, is that what I'm
Well, the
hearing?
other question is, I don't see anything in the rest of the rules that distinguishes between those 3 things. So there's just something that's not working here.
Okay.
In other words, if there were 3 types of dispensaries and they were treated differently, then it would make sense to do that. But they don't, they define the dispensaries and they define the control board, but they don't actually distinguish between them.
Yeah,
they're not treated differently, so I don't know. Again, it just seems like it's making it unduly complicated.
That's correct.
So
Very
is the micro business would follow the same rules as, they have the same
They
security
would have to follow the
ID
same,
and
the
has
same New York State rules as a retail at a business.
The only thing that's confusing about that part is that we say that these are allowed in Hamlet mixed use and Hamlet commercial districts.
All right, so let's not get ahead.
Okay, you want to come back to that? All
Yeah,
right.
I know it's in there. I've saw the question. Let's not get ahead.
Okay, and I think
Let's go
this-
through this 1, 2, 3.
Okay, and I think the
4.
school grounds is, to make it that complicated, I just think is bizarre. I think that we have to just have simple words for
So
what
how
we're
do we
trying to
make this
protect
happen?
from.
Are you writing this stuff down and you're going to transmit this to whoever is being.
Well, if you want me to do it, I can transfer it to the planner, but I want to make sure that we've all had a chance to discuss these things.
Yes.
So I just think that like the fact that school grounds get such an extensive definition, I think if they were all the same, I think that if school ground and playground were the same setback, that you wouldn't have to go through all this crazy definition of school grounds, because they'd all be the same. I mean, it would be the same for school grounds or whatever.
Well, I think Ian said it's called youth public, or public youth.
Yeah, they had, the term that's used in the, in the state law is public youth facility.
Because if you use that term, that
I think the
covers
more
school and-
consistent we stay with the New York State law, the better off we will be.
That's-
This comes into play particularly with the measurement requirements. If you look in the
Right.
state law with regards to the measurement requirements, which,
Door to door.
well,
not-
they're more
not
than
even
that.
that.
They're extensively defined, extensively defined. And I think this board should be aware of what they are so they understand what they are.
Okay.
I mean,
Were you going to tell us?
I
Or it's
wouldn't
too
have enough
complicated?
time tonight to tell you, honestly.
The basics
It's pages long.
is they
Right,
laid it
because
out.
ours has to reflect
The
at
new-
least what the state's laws are.
You're right.
We can't be less.
Correct, and I'm not quite sure we do that in every aspect in here. So the measurement requirements are, we define it differently in here than it
And it
does in the
should
state
be.
law. And I think when you read the state law and you look at how it's defined, how it's described, exceptions and definitions, and it's, other than saying it's extensive, I mean, it's
I was
it's
gonna
like
say-
a couple pages long.
So,
I mean, it's like,
tonight during public comment,
So-
someone brought up that it should be from property line to property line. And I was going to state that, listen, the state of New York has already defined this very clearly on how it gets measured from door to door.
I would
And
agree.
And if we go to changing that, we might be opening ourselves up to lawsuits.
So we can do that by just saying it'd be 500 feet. And then we solve that.
well, that's the actual
Well, no, we have to
distance.
define where the 500 is measured from.
Good, it's how they measure
Property
it.
line.
I
Right, and
understand
it has provisions for
She's
corner
focused-
lots, it has a
she's focused
provision
on a different
for
thing.
if there's multiple entrances, it has provisions for side doors, front doors, what is a front door, what's a
Well,
side
that's
door?
why if we just did property lines, it wouldn't be in the
Well,
same.
no, the
But
New York State
New
law.
York State already
They already-
defined.
they've already
they said,
defined
do
it.
it from door to door. If we go changing from that,
Yeah.
I'm afraid that we're going to open ourselves up to lawsuits later on
Well,
down
then
the
we're going to
road.
have to have all that other verbiage in the.
No, it's simple. It's door to door, like New York State describes
Right,
it.
so
Well,
that's
You
what I'm
could make a
saying. So if
reference
you
to
do-
the state law.
And how do you deal with a park?
Entrance, it says it, whenever it lays out,
He just gave us a very,
whenever it lays out the door-to-door measurements, it says from the entrance to a park,
but-
a public access entrance to a park.
as an attorney, he just gave us the best advice. You make reference to the state law,
Yeah.
period.
So not to throw anybody
Yeah.
under the bus, but didn't we pay somebody to draft this, and shouldn't they have been looking at the state law to make sure everything was?
Yeah, they did,
Yeah.
but then our planning board got a hold of it and changed it dramatically, in my eyes.
Well, I think there are things that, I don't think we can blame them for the fact that there
No,
are
I'm
definitions.
not blaming
No,
them,
no,
I'm
no,
just
no, I
saying
mean,
it.
there are definitions in two places. That wasn't added to this, so.
But there was a lot
It
more
came that
added
way.
from what the planner created.
I know, and it upsets
The-
you. But the
The
point is
planning
that we,
board added a lot more, like the special permit thing.
you know, I hate to tell you this, but planning boards actually do planning. And so, and they're responsible for planning in the town of
I
Amenia.
understand
So they
understand
actually
that.
have a role in this. I know you want it done in 5 minutes.
I
but-
totally
or at
agree- I
least-
totally
at least
agree with
within
that.
a year, but.
I totally agree with that, but sometimes even in that report that we got, their own lawyer said, or they asked them if they were overstepping their boundaries.
Right, and I think we have to find out the answer to that and be clear. So that was all that I had in section 2A.
Okay.
2B. So one of the people who commented on this asked whether the application process should even be part of the zoning here, or that's totally under the, I mean, that's totally as the state defines it. And I didn't know the answer to that, but
I think-
I thought there was a lot of complexity to the application process, too. I mean, I think there's some basic stuff about that the town clerk is the person who receives the notice of application and stuff, but I just thought it was, again, just incredibly cumbersome.
But when I looked at it, I think the town law states, so when they submit their application.
Right.
They have to say where it's going to be.
Right.
And I think that's for the lighting and the branding, they haven't have a plan. And that, when they get their application from the state. Is that not right?
Wait, I'm sorry. In other
So
words, the
so
state...
if I want to open the dispensary,
Right.
I have to make an application to the state, and I have to get my license and all that.
Right.
When I go up and give my application to the state, all of that stuff, the branding and the lighting and the decommissioning and the, how, it said, where, the location, all of that.
Right.
That's
That
in the application that goes to the state.
Okay.
So, and I understand that part. And my only question was, do they then follow up? And that was the only thing.
So
that
that's
stuff
not
doesn't
what
have
we're-
to be in the plan.
But that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about is Section 2B, application process. It says here that it shall notify the town clerk 30 days prior to filing a license application. That makes no sense to me. Wouldn't they file license applications with the state of New York first, get their license, and then notify?
There's an actual notice that is state required that comes to this board for that.
Yeah.
So they actually send a notice ahead
So
of time.
we should,
And it's like a 30-day notice to the municipality, should they have any
The
issues.
state sends that after they
Well, the
file
applicant
with the
has to
state?
do it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
applicant has to do it.
Yeah, so
That's
we
part of
should-
their
that-
application.
All this, excuse me, just one second. All this is coming from the planning board, our planning board.
And the planning board attorney, I believe.
We've seen it.
So,
We actually said that. We've had them here.
and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we're just trying to reinvent the wheel here because everything has already been set in stone with the New York State regulations. So again, and Ian, you said it, when we write up our plans, it needs to reference the state regulations.
Yeah, but I think we
So,
need to...
but if we change them, then we're wrong. We can't, then we're in violation.
we need to strike Section 2B.
Something as a planning board member?
Thank you.
Microphone, please.
Perhaps you need to add something that says pursuant or in following the zoning laws of the town of Amenia and the laws of New York, and pursuant to the laws of the zoning rules of town of Amenia, and unless superseded by the state of New York.
So-
And that way, you're saying, all right, the planning board can comment on town of Amenia codes, but when we start talking distances, pursuant to the laws of the state of New York.
Thank you.
So
We are subsidiaries of those laws. And then it doesn't matter what the planning board or even you guys think, because that's what
we're
you're
trying to get to. That's why we're having this
Well, then
tonight.
just put that language in your resolution, and that's something that your attorney could do.
Well,
because-
that's the local law we're trying to get to. That's what we're trying to create.
Well,
From the-
you're not listening to me, I don't think. I'm saying that if you say pursuant to the zoning law, unless superseded by the state of New York, that's all you have to add for so many of the things you're talking about.
The reason we're
One
talking
line.
about all these other things is because the planning board added them.
Planning board did what they were asked to do. I'm saying that we could not make some of these comments if it said, unless superseded by the state of New York cannabis law, or what, state of New York law. If it says that, our comments are irrelevant because we have no power.
I think
And they're irrelevant comments. That's just on behalf of the planning board.
Okay.
But, I mean, the state set this up so that the towns can have some power if there are things that they do not want, if there are things that they want to change. And what I'm trying to do is boil it down to things that we actually are concerned about, as opposed to like, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, before you go,
so
I have
New
a
York-
question.
New-
Ken.
New York's-
So,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, one question, because I'm not clear on this. Leo, you had said this came from the planning board attorney? Or the planning?
Some
board?
of this came from, well, I think that all of these
It's
comments...
collectively from the comments that were made by the planning board and the attorney.
And his comments.
All right,
That's
so-
what this is.
So did the planning board attorney have a lack of understanding of what the New York State laws were?
Well, I don't know which of these are
We had a
his, and I haven't
copy
been looking
of
for them.
the New York State law and referred to it when we made our comments. And that's a distillation of our comments and what we were required to do in terms of code, whatnot, distillation by our attorney. We reviewed the comments made by some of the members, myself included, were not done in the abstract. They were done by looking at the state law and referring to it.
And
in
there
fact,
are
in my comments,
numerous
if you see my comments, they even cite the state law,
Good.
the sections, paragraphs, codes, subsections.
That was why I was sort of anxious that everyone actually read this.
So if you read the comments made by Paul, he makes a lot of comments and questions in instances with regards to how this law relates back to this state law, which is what I have been hinting at, where we have some issues with regards to how does the state law handle measurement? How does the state law handle distances? How is it handling certain entities? Like these things, a lot of those references are here. I think these references are accurate. I think the concerns are good, and I think it's something that our planner should analyze when they try to input these changes back. Right now, we have all these changes. This is extremely confusing to read and see and decipher. We have all this compilation of comment, which should go back to the planner, and the planner should kind of spit something out for us now to see a final version that we can play with. We don't have that here.
So this is what I understand that we're trying to do, right? We have this printout here, Town of Amenia Town Board, November 7th.
That's for me this afternoon.
Yeah,
I mean,
and this is, we're going through all these questions, and we're going to agree as a town board or not that, yes, we're in agreement with this, or we're gonna remove this, and then we're gonna
That's the
turn this
idea.
back. Okay,
And
that's what
then that
we're
will go
working
back to the planner. The planner will then
for. Okay, so
create
it seems like
a
we're having a lot
final.
of discussion, and we're still stuck on number 4.
Well,
Yes. There's only 15, I swear. Did you want to say something else, Ian?
As part, with regards to number 4, some of the comments that were made were the application process is not something that the town has authority to regulate. It's basically, it's time, place, and manner is what we have the authority to regulate. So where we want it in our town, the
So-
timeframes that it can
So this
operating.
is something that we should remove, is what I'm hearing.
What, the application process?
Yeah.
Well, I think we should just refer it to the state.
State, there you go. All right, beautiful.
But I mean, I think it does need, for instance, if the information is supposed to be sent to the town clerk, then we need to just say that
Well,
in
but
the application.
if the state requires that all this information, when they put an application in, gets circulated to the town board and to the town clerk, that's already been
If it's in the regulations, then all we have to do is refer to
beautiful.
the
Okay.
Now,
the
this,
state process.
this, I believe, was part of the original draft law that came to us, and these are comments from the planning board with regards to the original draft, and they're stating that this is already regulated by the state, and perhaps this...
We're still on number 4, right? Question
Yeah,
number 4?
well, yeah, 4B, I think it is, yeah?
Yeah.
Or- Is that 2? No. is that
2B.
2B.
It's
2B. Yeah, I
We're not-
made that confusing. I should have done
Or
that.
not 2B.
Okay.
But that's the type of question that they're, I mean, this whole section's highlighted as saying, hey, you're talking about an application process, probably shouldn't,
Doesn't need to be in there.
doesn't need to be in there.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, you guys, when somebody's going to set up a place, they're going to have, I forgot the name of the form, but we've actually had them sent to us before. And they come here and it gives the municipality a 30-day opportunity to basically inspect where it's going, see if it fits, see if they have any objections or questions, problems, complaints about the entity who's coming in, and you can report that back to the cannabis board. So the process, it almost seems like, and the planner would be able to define, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it seems like they were trying to just institute that here, something that's already in place. So I think that's why the planning board comment
So do
was
we
saying
as a
that it's
town
already
board
there.
agree that basically 2B should be removed?
I just want to read and make sure that there's nothing that's not included. I mean, it sounds like it should have everything, but I
Right.
think
Or
we
the-
need to read it.
Yeah.
Either removed or referenced directly to the state application.
Okay. The submission requirements, again,
Number
I think
five.
that's number 5.
And we
section
kind of talked
2C.
about that, right? I mean, that's all part of the plan that goes to the state when they get their
Yeah,
application.
that's
Right.
all,
So that's all state stuff.
that's all state stuff, and
And-
I'm not understanding why they're putting that in our
Well,
local
that's
law.
why that's why we're
Yeah.
doing this.
So- Okay.
If it's the submission requirements, if the board wants to have the actual application that was sent to the state as part of their application as to starting their business here, because this is presuming going through a site plan and special permit. So they're saying, well, that should then, we should have access to those, that application, right? That would be part of what you're going to review. It would
Yeah.
make sense to have that. So that seems to be what this is going into now. So if we take the special permit side of it out, and then we have this in, that'll alter the entire law. So how
I
that's done
think the
should-
other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but I thought that if it's a new business being built, that they have to they require site plan approval. Because I know that there were supposed to be shrubs around Dollar General, and they didn't put in what they said they were going to, and they died. So, and then there's the enforcement question on that too. But in any event, okay, so submission requirements is like is what we have in here. I mean, what does New York State require, and can we just reference it?
So everything that I'm reading here for our submission requirements is
Yeah.
everything that I've read that New York State requires.
Great.
In the first place. The only thing I have a question about, and I already asked this before, is what is this one-year probation stuff?
Yeah, I think we're getting to that. Is that part of is that part of
That's
I
part
don't
of
know if
question
it's a one-year
5.
probation, but in the state law, there does say something about a year, after 1 year doing something, and that was in the state law. I saw.
Say it again.
I saw something about 1 year in the state law.
1 year or
It was either like not a renewal or.
every
or
2 years?
review.
Every 2 years, they have to renew with the state of New York. They have to renew their license.
I also was just going to ask, does the state law require a decommissioning plan and a performance bond?
I don't know about the performance bond, but I know that they require the decommissioning plan. That's part of the
What in
initial.
God's name does that mean? It's not a.
It means that they dispose of all the marijuana properly and don't give
Yeah,
it away for free.
you're going to want some sort of decommissioning plan. That was something I had requested. That was one of my
Okay.
comments, because if somebody comes in, they start this and they're going and they fail, you're going to want some sort of clear laid out plan on what's going to happen with all that inventory and
But
what's going on.
that's already required by New York State, correct?
Well, to have one, but we
But we're giving a
gave some,
list of
yeah, we gave some
requirements that may or
ideas
may
here,
not.
yeah. And if you
Okay.
have, if the place goes belly up and there's a performance bond, then we're not stuck holding the bag. There's a
So
way-
that's where the performance bond is coming from.
And do we have a probation period? I mean, just back to that for a second. Do we do that for any other kind of business? Any other kind of new business?
I'm not your planning board attorney, I don't know.
Right. And you want to take a shot at that? I don't think so.
No, I don't think.
No, I don't think, and I don't think that was the intent. I think the intent was, again, they were referencing back, because it does say somewhere in, I read it today, somewhere in that law, it says something, you have to do something after 1 year, and I just don't remember what it was.
Okay.
So
Probationary, I'm looking for the law right now.
I agree with,
I'm sorry, then state law or our
I'm looking for
local
the
law?
law right now, what's probationary?
Oh.
When
I agree with the performance bond. I don't agree with this 1 year probation
But
period.
that's, if it's in the state law, you have,
Unless it's in the state law.
okay.
Because it does seem odd to me. And also the issues and complaints that's in this, I don't know how we're supposed to enforce that unless, in fact, the Cannabis Commission or whatever actually does inspections, because we have a zoning enforcement officer, a code enforcement officer, we have constables, we have a town board, we have a court. It just seems to me like I'm just very confused at the end of this about like lighting requirements. I mean, if that stuff is in the code, we should refer to, I mean, the state code, we should refer to that unless there's specific issues.
That's what I'm trying to say, is
Okay.
for section 2C, other than the performance bond, we should refer to New York State law.
Okay.
And then we put the performance bond in there, just to make sure that they clean up afterwards.
Okay. I also had a question about what is the justification for the separation requirements? I mean, the fact that they're different seems strange
Say-
to me
say this again?
conceptually. The whole idea of the separation requirements.
Oh, okay, so this is a
I
new
don't
question.
think, yeah, this is, I'm sorry, I moved on to
Number six.
number 6.
Okay.
It just seems strange to me, again, because we're not like, we're not clear in terms of, oh my God, I'm wiping Ian out, that's a bad sign.
Can't see anymore.
The idea that there are separation requirements, again, is this treated like a liquor store, or is this treated like an adult store, or is this just general retail? I mean, it seems to me that, again, we're asking them to be a certain distance away from other things.
Yep.
Is like, what is the real intent of that?
So New York
I know people are concerned about it being inappropriate or disrespectful to.
So New York State set
Yes.
up their rules, and they made it pretty simple and straightforward. It was 500 feet from school grounds, as defined by them, 300 feet from a public library, 200 feet from a place of worship, playground, or public park.
Right.
And then, for some reason, we added a cemetery, and I did not understand that. And then it has to be 2,000 feet from another dispensary.
Yeah, all that's great.
Yeah, so-
But the being 2,000 feet from another dispensary is to not have a row of dispensaries, which I kind of get.
That's correct.
But the other stuff in terms of the distances from various things, I don't, understand why they're different one from another, because if we're doing that because we're concerned about, kids having unsavory influence from a building that doesn't have anything displayed on it and has a sign with no logo, I'm not really sure what the worst case scenario is. or what that's
I
about.
agree, but here we are still discussing.
Well, I think we should, why don't we just change the distances? I can go with anything else, but we just change the distances.
Like I said, I don't want us to exclude any opportunity, at least somewhat of an opportunity for a business to be located within town.
Well, I think we need a clearer map. That was another thing I was concerned about. They did
But
it they did it on an aerial map rather
Yeah.
than a lot map, so you really couldn't tell what was in and what was out. They also did it from, I imagine their dots were from the building, not from the front door, and not that we need to go to that level of detail, but I just think the map, well, I have that under maps, but in any event.
And why is the park any different from the store?
Okay, so,
So,
yes.
permitted areas. I don't see, no, I don't see.
That 2,000 feet also includes a micro business as well.
2,000 feet
Within the
from
law.
another micro business?
Correct. I believe
Yeah.
that includes micro business, which
So-
was not in this. It just says
so
another
if-
dispensary. It should say another dispensary or micro
If
business.
we want to move the distances up to 400 feet, I'm agreeable to that.
Well, I mean, that's fine with me, because I just think, I don't know why a religious institution versus a playground versus whatever.
Yeah, no.
If we
I
want
just,
there to.
as long, I'll agree to the 400 feet, definitely not have, I still don't believe that cemeteries need to be included. I think that's overstepping.
Well, I mean, again, I
Well,
told you that.
It's a moot point, because even at 200 feet, I think the cemetery is more than 200 feet from the synagogue, and so, I think that would, so if you can't have it within 200 feet of the
400
synagogue.
feet.
I know, but I'm saying, so 400 feet would include the cemetery. But even 200 feet probably would, right? But that's.
Well, I think possibly they were considering the other cemetery.
That's all
out-
surrounded by swamp.
I'm sorry?
one
Well,
on Lakeville?
they were thinking about maybe trying to make sure that, because somebody came here and asked about making sure that we didn't have a dispensary next to an ice cream shop. Or we got an email about
That's
that.
too bad, because the munchies would increase.
I understand it, but I think that that's possibly also another reason why the cemeteries were brought up, to make sure that nothing would be set up out there by fudgies.
No. The reason that was brought up, because the person came in to see me, was really upset because they were.
That was
they
just,
were there.
but there was also, either we had an email comment or had a resident comment to us.
We did about fudgies, and it was
About
on
fudgies.
Facebook, Paul.
Okay, yeah, it's,
Yeah, that doesn't count for me.
So.
okay, I know that. I told people that, they had to send emails.
But I can live with 400 feet.
400 feet,
Yeah, that sounds
everybody
fair.
happy with 400 feet?
Yeah.
Excellent, all right, let's move on to the next one.
So
I want-
I'll make one caution on the 400 feet.
Yeah.
Because in the code, it talks about a 500-foot,
For a school.
School.
not only school, but
Youth
the
facility.
on the same road that you're talking about, what the law states is on the same road and within 500 feet of a structure or its grounds occupied exclusively as a public youth facility. So that's, I would have to do more research as to what that means.
But structure and
'cause I
grounds
don't-
is
I don't-
not door to door either. I mean,
All right, so
No,
why
no, no,
don't we
no,
do-
no,
why don't we
that's
do
different,
fi-
though.
isn't
That's-
this fun?
No, that's different. Once you set the distances, the measurement is a completely different section in the code. They have it, which I will, actually, what I will do for the board is I will send a link to just the measurement.
And if we wanted to do
Provisions.
400 instead of 500, we're allowed to make it more stringent
But
or?
not less.
But not less.
But not less.
So we do 500 feet for school, 500 feet for the park,
No,
400 feet.
400 feet.
Not from the school, we can't go under.
He just
school
said
has
we
to be
have to do
500.
5.
New York State law says 500 feet. We can't
For,
go
for what?
for the school.
For a school,
All right?
yes.
And then with the facility, then I'm assuming that Ian is thinking of the park. So 500 feet of the park and then 400 feet of anything else.
But I don't agree to the 500 feet for the park.
Again, we would have to figure out what...
New York State law says 250 feet. It makes it,
From a
I'm
park?
trying to make it 400 feet.
I can't find that, I can't find.
I don't know about that, because he's saying youth facility, right?
It's a
Wouldn't that
public
be
youth
park?
facility. Again, I'm not sure if that extends to parks. It's a definition of which I haven't
That
found
we
a very...
need an explanation
Correct.
of, yeah.
Yeah, and there may not be a very good one out there, so that's something I think we need to
Look
explore,
into.
and I have not had the opportunity to do that.
No idea how far 500 feet is, I'm sorry to say.
Well, it's shown, but very badly
It's a
on the
football
maps that were attached to
It's a
this.
football field.
Well,
So,
I understand that, but it's hard for me to visualize from door to door with the,
I mean, they're showing this, but they need to do it on a different kind of map, and they probably need to do it bigger, because it is really hard to tell what this actually encompasses. Anyway, I will look at New York State law, or maybe our planner will look at New York State law.
I can send it to you, and I'll
All right,
highlight the sections to the board.
I'm on the New York State website right now.
Yep.
All right, proposed adult cannabis retail dispensary location to not be located in a municipality that opted out of allowing a retail dispensary. A minimum distance of 2,000 feet between cannabis retail dispensaries and municipalities with less than 20,000 people. A minimum distance of 1,000 feet between adult cannabis retail spots with the population of more than 20,000. Minimum straight line measurement of 200 feet between any cannabis dispensary and house of worship.
no, I know the house of worship.
I'm reading it right here. It says.
I know what it says.
And, all right, 2 entities be required within a minimum straight line measurement of a cannabis dispensary between a dispensary and a school of 500 feet. And then that's it.
That's right. However,
All they said is 200 feet for, 200 feet for a school and, I mean,
okay.
for
Well, the section I'm reading
worship and
is
then 500 feet
literally,
for the school.
literally out of the code. What I
I'm sorry,
read,
what is
what
right
I
out of the
read to the
code?
board is literally out of the code. On the same road and within 500 feet of a structure or its grounds occupied exclusively as a public youth facility.
Okay.
I mean, that's right out of the code.
I think I have 2 issues with the farm stands, with the micro
That's not the
business.
not the
code.
law.
That's the problem.
I have 2 issues with micro business.
go to the code.
One is that there has to be 25 miles between retail and cultivation, which I thought was
That's what you have to do.
strange, and are we
Is
talking
that
about?
for a municipality with less than, like, the required population? Because they have different requirements for
All right, I'm
population
going to just
sizes.
have to go through what all the rules are, although, I really have other things to do, but,
I mean, we could go back to our planner. That's why we hired them to
Yeah.
do this. So we could go
Okay.
back to the planner and have them
Okay.
do that for you.
and we asked her to come on the 21st. That was the other person. Well, we didn't make a
But that's part of
specific
the meeting.
time. Huh?
But she's part of the
She's coming to
meeting.
the meeting, right, not the executive session.
so the law, and Ian, that's what I said earlier. It does say on the same road.
Correct.
Okay. But my concern with micro business is that 25 miles for, between retail and cultivation. So that seems like in conflict with what a micro business is supposed to be, if it's like.
Is a micro
specifically
business a
farm
different
stand.
license, though?
Yeah, microbusiness would probably fall under some exception to that because it's contrary to what it does. So it doesn't,
Right.
There's
Yeah, I
got to
mean,
be something in the law that's going to change
So
that.
anyway, that's really badly written, and I also think that that actually probably should have site plan approval because it's not in, I mean, these rules make sense, certainly if we're in a town, but for it to be out in the countryside and how it gets located relative to neighbors and that stuff.
Can I ask a question? Have these comments actually been sent to the planner to?
She's seen them, but she hasn't done
And
anything.
then refer them
She
to
was-
us.
She's our direction.
She's asking for our direction at this point.
So it sounds like our direction at this
Well,
point is to,
I could see that because it's.
is to reference New York State code wherever possible or use the rules from New York State code wherever possible. And, that's, that.
Well, it sounds like the board wants to stick with New York State code, draft a law that places
Except for the
these
businesses.
dispensaries in specific places, which is
Right.
the whole goal of this, right? And address the times that they can be open, which, my other comment on that, I don't know if it's in here anywhere, but the times I think are wrong as well.
Yeah, that has to be open for longer.
So,
Right.
they're too short.
They have to be allowed to be open for 70 hours.
Yeah, it has to be at least 70 hours. So, so I think that's some of the issue that is going on here, is that some of this is in contradiction to the law as drafted. So I think we have to go back to the planner and say, these
this
comments,
up.
I think, are good. The comments that are here are good. The planning board did exactly as we wanted them to do. I think they did a great job, but this stuff needs to get back to our planner. And if they have specific questions about direction, I think they should address that to the board.
Well, they're going to come on the 21st, so if we
But
can kind of,
can we ask them, direct them to clean up all this up and present to us something on the 21st?
That's what
I think that would be fantastic, because this is, as I was going through this is difficult. This is not easy to read or get, so some of this stuff.
But I would like to see it before the meeting.
We can request it from the planner to have it, if they consider, because,
Prior to the meeting.
because some of these things are very clear things that they can clean up for us. And I think if there are outstanding questions for the board, that they should then present that. And then that's something the board can address policy-wise. But right now, this is too cumbersome to even work with, in my opinion.
leave it time.
I agree. Maplebrook is a
Oh,
school.
Maplebrook is a school.
Maplebrook
You're
is,
absolutely
yeah,
right.
Maplebrook hasn't been on
I just
that
never
at
seen
all.
anyone walking there, but yes, it probably is a school.
Well, I don't think they even have Weebatuck on there, so it doesn't matter.
No, there's a dot representing Weebatuck. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the dot represents
But either way,
Maplebrook.
this is, we're restricting it to certain locations.
Correct, and zones,
And
and they would
certain
have to be
zones.
submitted,
And that was actually another question I had. Why are we not allowing it in, we allow it in Hamlet mixed use and Hamlet commercial. Why do we not allow it in manufacturing or OC is office commercial? I mean, I just, I didn't.
I don't know.
No one on the
I don't
planning
make the
board
policy.
No one on the planning board mentioned that either. I mean, maybe the intent is so that it stays someplace, nearby as opposed
Well,
to.
it's, the whole idea was to help try to draw foot traffic.
Yeah, that's true.
Drive foot traffic.
So
to
Hamlet
downtown.
that's a good point. Okay.
The whole time, that was the whole point of this, the whole time from the very get-go, was to try to drive some kind of tax revenue to the center of town.
All right, well, I think we've gotten to, what?
No, there's a provision of parking, I'm sorry.
Oh, right, the provision of parking, I
There's a
did.
parking provision that would make foot traffic on Main Street, as I recall. But I don't believe you can park on the street for a dispensary according to the New
That's
York
correct.
has to be off-street
That has to be off-street
So
parking.
how are you going to draw foot traffic?
We don't want anything right there on the center of Main Street at 343 from the red light to Mechanic Street, but there's places down Mechanic Street, and then there's places on the other side of 22 where this
Okay,
business
just
can
when
be
you say
located.
draw foot traffic, just
But
want to make
that's
sure
still
we
creating
understand.
foot traffic.
Okay,
I think the recommendation to the planner should be, once you review the measurement in the state law, and the distance requirements. And once you start plotting schools, churches, playgrounds, that public youth facility, I will look into that as well, because I'm not comfortable with what they're implying by that, or how broad that will be interpreted. But once you have that, then you plot that on a map. Once you plot that on a map, you're going to see what's available.
Yeah,
And
it's a clearer map.
that's how you got to start to do this.
I mean, because they
to
did
see
that,
where
but
they're
it's
gonna-
like, who can tell at this scale?
Yeah, that's not helpful.
No, it's not really so helpful.
I had a question for Ian. Ian, is the rail trail considered a park?
Is it who?
The rail trail considered a park?
I believe that is a state park.
Because I don't think, was that shown on this? No. Okay. Well, that's the thing, is that we need to, make sure that the places that we define.
I could be wrong on that,
as
but that
those
was-
things-
It's owned by
I
New
don't
York State
understand how
Parks
it's
and
that much
Recreation.
easier for someone to open up a liquor store.
It's
or
owned,
sell
it's owned by New York State Parks
That's
and
exactly why I
Recreation.
think it is, but I don't know if it has.
Yeah.
Rail trail's not by the liquor store.
I think we're also, I think
Gas
that we're being a
stations.
little overprotective of kids,
Cumberland Farms.
because this thing is going
It's
to be
how close to
opaque,
a-
so
to a,
I don't know how they would be.
Yeah, it
drawn
won't
in.
look like a head shop.
Not
It
500
won't look like,
No, they aren't.
there's
within the 200
pretty heavy regulations in the state law
The synagogues.
as to what they have to look like, and a lot of
Cumberland
these
Farm
issues and
are within
concerns are
200
already
feet.
addressed in the state law.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why I think if I circulate
I'm
the
gonna
state
look- yes, I think that's a
law
great idea.
with regards to the municipalities
I'm
and
gonna
what
get
they
it
can
cleaned up and
regulate,
then
I
just change it
think
to
that might
500
be helpful for the board to
I hope so,
understand
Okay, beautiful.
but.
what
wait a minute.
already exists.
Right.
And then we can work from that.
There's one more thing, which is that, well, there may be more than one, but from my perspective, I noticed that, where is it? Sorry. I noticed that both Broadway and Mechanic Street, the whole length of them are oh yeah, there's Mechanic Street and Broadway is.
Because they're more residential?
Yeah, they were included in the zone, and they are Hamlet mixed use.
Okay.
It's just a question of whether people on either of those streets could have a total meltdown. There's not much vacant land there, but I just
So,
wanted to point that out to
do we
everyone.
not, as a town, have the ability to deny somebody a permit or say, no, you can't open up on Mechanic Street or whatever?
Well, do you want a permit for this or not?
You said you
Just
wanted
took
to-
out
Say it
you
again.
want
Do you
special
want a permit for this or
That's-
not? That's kind of,
No, I'm asking, I'm asking.
Well, if there's no special.
without
permit
looking at the code, I
required,
wouldn't
probably
really
not.
answer that.
Okay.
Unless we make it specific to residential streets, which sounds incredibly complicated. I just wanted you to know that those were within the green zone here. And, I thought that might ultimately be a problem. But that's all I got. I can, if Ian sends if Ian sends the New York State law,
I think that'll be helpful for the board. If you see and read the state law, you'll get an understanding of what
Didn't we just
exists.
agree that we're gonna send this back to the planner, have them refer the majority of it to New York State law, clean it up and present us a final thing here for the next one?
well, if they're presenting it.
That
to
is
us,
my
it's not-
understanding of
it's-
what-
It's inherently not a final thing, unless we all think it's done when it's
But
done.
we did want to change the distances. We shouldn't direct them to do that, include that? So none of our comments?
No, Paul said he was, to me, that he was fine with 400 feet for everything and 500 for
For the
school.
And I said that
Seems to deal
before,
with most
I said
of it.
that to everybody.
Like I said, I think if the planning board can address, there are certain things in here, i.e. the distance requirements, the measurement requirements, the hours, there are some, these are just statutory things that need to be corrected, and they can clean some of those aspects up. And in the meantime, the board can review what the state law provides, because I think it will settle a lot of nerves and concerns as to what's already protected. And then, once we place on a map what this looks like, and what properties would then be available for a dispensary under these new distances, I think that would put us in a much better position to understand what we've drafted.
Yeah. Okay, so
And
does
then
anyone
we
have
go
a?
to, they will come on the 21st, and then after that, we'll go to a public hearing?
If they've submitted something to the board that the board is comfortable with planning, I can have a resolution to introduce that as a local law. In conjunction with that, there's two aspects of this, right? First is zoning what this is. Second, we would have to rescind our opt-out and then pass another.
Didn't we do that already?
No, I don't think we.
Early on.
I don't think we did that.
No?
No, we never did that.
Okay.
It was explained earlier. I'm just reiterating the process. We would have to rescind that and then pass a local law to opt in for dispensary only.
Right, okay.
No public, I thought every time we had a law, we had to have a public hearing.
Once you introduce, you set a public hearing. So you introduce, set a public hearing, it gets circulated, because it'll have to be circulated, it'll go up to county, it'll go back to the planning board again. And then you'll have the public hearing.
But Paul, we've made a lot of progress. This is as close as we've gone, what?
It's just mind-boggling that it took us 11 months to make this kind of progress. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, then I would say that, we close the public hearing. I'm sorry, we close the public. No.
You're just discussing. We're just going to move on to the next agenda item.
The next agenda item is executive session.
So you just want to make a motion to go into executive?
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, more?
As a special exception for you, Judy.
Boy, a lot of people jumping up.
I just need to correct myself. In looking online, I think I'm wrong about the star, so I want to make sure that gets on the record here, that's all. So
What are you wrong about on this?
I'm wrong about the town needing to be under a 2%.
So in other words, we don't need.
So my last comment is immaterial.
Because I also saw that it also is in check with inflation. It's either 2% or inflation.
Yeah, so, never mind. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's been up there. Thank you, Judy, for clarifying. So did I make the motion
I
already?
think you're trying.
I'll second.
Okay,
I need to get
Nicole,
up and move
and
around.
you're doing it
then we go into
for,
executive session.
Is this my executive
It's
session
yours,
to
Jack, it's
discuss
yours.
the Kent Hollow litigation? And so we will excuse
Me.
Leo.
I'm delighted.
So should we just go to,
can't. You need Leo for a few minutes and I have to
We
leave.
have to close.
we can't go to your office?